Hello and welcome to another episode of Damn Interesting Week. We are so glad you've decided to join us. My name is Jennifer Lee Noonan.
I'm Spurr-Chen.
I'm Bradley Calhoun.
And this was a damn interesting week. So let's get started with our first link.
First link. This article comes to us from SmithsonianMag.com. It's titled, "This Giant 7-Story Picnic Basket, Once Home to an Iconic American Brand, Could Be Yours for $8.5 million."
Oh, so it's a building that looks like a picnic. Okay. Because I was like, I'm not spending $8.5 million on a picnic basket, but...
Yeah, no, it is a giant building that basically it looks like a picnic basket. It's been designed so it has rounded edges and the windows are built in so it looks like the gaps in the wicker. The entire building is kind of this orange brown. And it has 2 gigantic handles that are purely aesthetic that are pinned to the top of the building. And I don't know if they turn. They probably don't. But they are tilted as if you were a giant. You could come over and just pick up the basket and go for your giant shopping, I guess. So it's the former headquarters of the Longaberger Basket Company. And it's been listed for sale with the price tag of $8.5 million. It stands 7 stories tall, and it is an 180,000 square foot building sitting on a 21.5 acre campus in Newark, Ohio, roughly 40 miles outside of the state's capital, Columbus. Its perch along a state highway means it has been a standout attraction for motorists since it opened in 1997. Brandon Hess, the listing agent who's managing the sale, said, "If I'm there, the door opens every single time with somebody saying they just had to come inside and see it. It's such a fun building. It brings a smile to everyone." The building's exterior is a replica of Longaberger's medium market basket, one of the company's most iconic products. The basket's 2 massive handles are heated in the winter to melt ice. Inside, the spacious location more closely resembles a regular corporate building. There's an atrium with a cherry wood staircase, glass elevators, a gym, and a media room. Locally sourced woodwork completes the interior design, and in the company's heyday, roughly 500 corporate employees called the basket their office. The family-owned company reached its peak around the turn of the century. It employed more than 8,000 people and handed out luxury baskets to the winners at the Academy Awards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did not know about that. That's wild.
Yeah, like I've never thought about, I know they get like piles of goodies, but I never thought about the basket that the goodies go in. They got to be the basket.
Those are some prestigious baskets in that scenario. So Longaberger developed a sprawling empire across Ohio. In addition to its headquarters, the company owned a hotel, built the Longaberger Golf Club, and operated large manufacturing facilities. Most famous was the Longaberger Homestead, which housed a restaurant, garden, stores, and the world's largest apple basket. Tours of Longaberger's entities were popular excursions which helped build the brand. Eventually, the company's success dwindled and it folded in 2018. Developer and historic restoration expert Steve Kuhn bought the Big Basket building in 2017, intending to turn the unique location into a boutique hotel, plans that were stalled as a result of the pandemic. Kuhn isn't interested in finding just any buyer. He hopes that the building's new owner respects its history and works to add it to the National Register of Historic Places. Kuhn says, "Somebody made me an offer, but they wanted to take the handles off and they didn't want it to look like a basket. It was a hard no from me." I said, "That's not going to happen. It's got to stay a basket or I won't sell it."
Wow. I'm trying to, like, what would you turn that into short of just raising it to the ground? Like, what does a basket become?
You just have to put, like, a facade over it, I guess. Like, there is the lip which juts out, and you could flatten that, but then the windows would be sunken, and I don't know. Yeah.
Like you said, you would just put a facade over it, but the basket would be still inside. People would know.
They should just wrap it in, like, a big H-E-B-style shopping cart, and then eventually we'll have the world's largest H-E-B to basket scale.
Honestly, I feel like a grocery store should take it, but like the upper floors could be home goods. Like, because H-E-B's always wanted to be more like Walmart, but also it's Ohio, which H-E-B doesn't have a foothold there as far as I'm aware. Half our listeners have no idea what H-E-B is, but if you lived in the South, you would know.
Or an influencer will buy it, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Beast will say he's going to keep it as a basket, and then he'll just blow the whole thing up. And
Next link.
Next link. Okay, this comes from Discover. Genetically modified hookworms could become living drug factories for long-term treatments.
Oh.
Yeah, hookworms, usually known for disease. But scientists have now transformed the notorious parasite into tiny living drug factories capable of producing medicine inside the body.
Yeah, see, that's what I was if it's like forming it in a petri dish and then they take the medicine and they give it to me, fine. But if you're going to give me hookworms,
We are giving you hookworms.
You're not.
The proof of concept study used hookworms to produce an antibody that neutralizes tetrodotoxin, a powerful neurotoxin found in pufferfish and other marine animals. After the modified parasite established themselves inside animal host, they secreted the antitoxin into the bloodstream, where it partially blocked the deadly poison.
Partially. So the study animal still died of pufferfish poison.
Maybe, or got really sick. Yeah, the idea builds on decades of hookworm research. Scientists have long known that the parasites release molecules that calm the immune system, which is why researchers have investigated them as possible treatments for inflammatory bowel disorders.
Mm-hmm.
The results suggested that parasites may someday serve as self-sustaining pharmaceutical platforms without repeated injection or infusions. So this is how they get to you, right? A controlled number of larvae can be delivered through the skin or swallowed in a pill. Once inside the body, they migrate to the small intestine where they can survive for years. Importantly, the worms can't reproduce inside their host, meaning their numbers remain fixed. And then if doctors ever need to stop the treatment, they could eliminate the infection within 24 hours with a single dose of anti-parasitic medication.
Yeah. If they can't reproduce, at least that's something. But, they said the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park couldn't reproduce, and they managed, so...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're, for like Crohn's disease, colitis, or food allergies is kind of where they're targeting this. Like they require low but continuous doses of medication. But as we mentioned earlier, the amount of toxin neutralizing antibody produced in this first study was modest, but scientists believe they've only scratched the surface.
Well, and it's interesting as an antitoxin because if you're you're going to a foreign country where I'm at risk of getting this disease that I'm not at risk of getting at home, instead of a bunch of jabs, you could be like, I'm going to take these hookworms and they're just going to be there during the trip and then I can kill them when I get home. They don't have to be permanent residents in my body. Because if you could completely specialize them, you could be like, these are the hookworms for malaria, these are the hookworms for whatever. But, you're still putting hookworms in your body.
Right. But, we used to put leeches on people.
Well,
and then we found out that kind of works again, too, on some things, right? So,
they do maggot therapy. If a doctor told me I had to, and the doctor was like reasonably normal sounding and associated with a major facility.
Wild eyes.
Yeah.
Hey, I got some worms for you.
Yeah. If he owns a comb, I'll be like, okay, he probably knows what he's talking about. I guess I'll take the hookworms, but I'm not going to like it.
Next link.
Next link.
All right, this next one comes from CNN, and it's about a new Guinness World Record for the world's loudest person.
Whoa.
Yeah, side note to my friends and family, it's not me. So the new record holder is a 58-year-old Australian man named Joseph McGrail Baitup, and his voice has been officially clocked at 122.4 decibels.
Ooh.
Yeah, for comparison, that's as loud as a jet plane taking off or an ambulance siren at close range.
Wow.
Now, the previous record had gone undefeated since 1994, when a Northern Ireland schoolteacher named Annalisa Flanagan was recorded shouting the word quiet at an almost equally stunning 121.7 decibels. And it wasn't easy to beat. McGrail Baitup took 7 attempts on the day before he just managed to top her with the word he chose to shout, which was now. And in fact, McGrail Baitup doesn't actually want to say that he's beaten her. He chooses to think of his record as the world's loudest man, which would allow Flanagan to remain the world's loudest woman, which is very sweet, but that's not actually what Guinness has written down. But he does feel like he owes a certain debt to Flanagan, because he only discovered her record and decided to attempt it after he originally went looking for records associated with being a town crier. Because that is actually an official government gig in McGrail Baitup's hometown of Canberra, where he has formally served as the town crier since 2017, in addition to working as a professional air conditioner cleaner. The position of town crier is honorary and unpaid, but it does come with very real duties. including making announcements at community events, school fetes, and car shows. It also carries with it an automatic membership in the Ancient and Honorable Guild of Australian Town Criers, which hosts nationwide competitions and is dedicated to preserving the history of the town crier in Australian public life. Not surprisingly, McGrill-Baidup was already on record as being one of the very best among them, having won a competition in 2024 to shout the loudest oyez, 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 which is a traditional cry for attention similar to hear ye, hear ye. And I'm not 100% certain, but I do believe that is the origin of the Australian and British interjection oi. Like, I think they still shout it in courtrooms today, but I know they were doing it even as late as like the 30s and 40s. Now, you might think with this kind of volume, they would have recorded it outside, but Guinness wants things done right. So McGrill-Baidup's record-breaking shout was recorded inside a radio studio on May 2nd of this year and was verified by a professional acoustic engineer with witnesses present. When asked if he had done anything to prepare for his attempt, McGrill-Baidup said, "There's no way that you can," and that the attempt did leave his voice shot for several days afterward. But here's the weird thing. This isn't actually the first world record that McGrill-Baidup has broken. Back in 2019, he broke an archery speed record for shooting 10 arrows in 60.03 seconds. That record, however, was broken less than a year later by a 7-year-old boy who beat McGrill-Baidup's time by more than 11 seconds. Yeah, they start him young in Australia with the archery, I suppose. But again, he's cool with that. McGrill-Baidup says he has no interest in regaining his archery record, nor will he attempt the loudest man or person record again if he is surpassed. Quote, "If someone beats me, that's fantastic. Records are meant to be broken."
Wow.
Yeah, he seems like a nice guy.
Because usually people become obsessed, right? Like, that's usually the thing. Like, somebody breaks it. Oh, I got to break it. And that becomes their whole shtick.
Right. Well, and I think he probably might go looking for other records. But he's like, I've already done that one. Now I got to find something else I can do besides archery and shouting. Like, you know, maybe there's a world record having to do with air conditioning ducts. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he just thrives on variety, you know? He's like, been there, done that.
I feel like that tends to go with loud people in my mind. People who are loud are often like, I got to try everything.
Yeah, I figure out maybe a few shots would help increase the volume level of alcohol. Sorry.
Oh. It was like drugs? Like medicine?
A few shots of alcohol usually increases the volume level of most human beings.
Yeah. Well, relaxes the diaphragm. You get more...
more throughput.
That's right. Next link?
Next link. This article comes to us from Popular Mechanics. It's titled, "A Mid-Air Crash Dropped Nuclear Bombs on Spain. Cleanup crews are paying the price 50 years later."
Oh, okay. This isn't a recent crash.
No. This is old. And I actually had no idea about this, but yeah, the 50s and 60s were a wild time. So gradually developed in the 1950s and established as a doctrine in the 1960s, the U.S. nuclear triad forms the backbone of the Pentagon's nuclear deterrence strategy. One leg of that triad, alongside missile silos and submarines, is the aerial threat posed by strategic bombers. Today, those bombers no longer fly constant patrols, but from 1961 to 1968, B-52s carrying humanity's most destructive weapons regularly flew strategic routes within easy striking distance of the Soviet Union in a mission known as Operation Chrome Dome. Yeah, though flying bombers around the clock might have seemed like a necessary measure at the time, it was far from a safe one. On January 17, 1966, a U.S. B-52G bomber flying the southern route collided with a KC-135 refueling tanker at approximately 10:30 a.m. local time. This particular accident was especially alarming because the B-52 happened to be carrying 4 thermonuclear bombs. 3 of the bombs landed near the town of Palomares on the southeastern coast of Spain, while a 4th bomb fell into the waters of the Mediterranean. Within hours, around 1,600 U.S. military personnel filled the remote fishing village because, while none of the bombs were armed, 2 of the weapons had formed craters and scattered plutonium across the tomato fields of Palomares.
Oh.
John Garman, a then 23-year-old military police officer who surveyed the crash site only a few hours after the incident, said during a 2006 interview with the New York Times, "It was just chaos. Wreckage was all over the village. A big part of the bomber had crashed down in the yard of the school." According to History.com, 1,400 tons of radioactive soil and vegetation were eventually shipped to the U.S. for safe disposal. But while 3 of the bombs were accounted for on land, the 4th had vanished into the Mediterranean Sea. What followed was one of the most extensive underwater recovery operations in history. The 80-day search involved some 33 Navy vessels, 3,000 personnel, and the deep-sea submersible Alvin. A local fisherman, Francisco Simo Orts, had watched the bomb descend into the water on a parachute, and his eyewitness account helped narrow down the search area. The Alvin finally located the weapon on a steep underwater slope at a depth of roughly 2,500 feet, but the ordeal was not over. During the first recovery attempt, a cable snapped and the bomb slid deeper into an underwater canyon. Yeah, it was lost again for 9 more days.
Jeez.
It wasn't until April 7th that the bomb was finally brought to the surface. Miraculously, it was dented but intact with no radiation leakage. Of the 11 crew members in the 2 aircraft that were involved in the accident, 7 were killed. But no villagers on the ground were killed or injured in the radioactive accident.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty impressive, like, given just the sheer scale of the thing. But for decades afterward, the 1,600 or so U.S. veterans who participated in the cleanup fell sick, often with various cancers related to radiation exposure. Soldiers eventually filed a class action lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, which denied there was any radiation risk at the site. Eventually, Congress passed the Palomares Veterans Act in 2022, offering disability and health care for surviving Palomares veterans and certain benefits to family members of deceased veterans as well. Operation Chrome Dome didn't last long after the Palomares incident because almost exactly 2 years later, another thermonuclear bomb-laden B-52 bomber crashed into the North Star Bay near Thule Air Base in Greenland.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a mess. In response, the United States Air Force Strategic Air Command immediately suspended the operation indefinitely.
Yeah. We didn't learn our lesson the first time, but I guess the second time.
Well, the first time was in 61 in North Carolina.
Oh, so this
Whoops.
was the third time in Greenland. Okay. All
This
right.
was the third time in Greenland.
Yeah.
Okay, well, third time is the whatever different word for charm, but yeah.
By the way, y'all, there are still 6 nuclear weapons somewhere in the ocean.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Yay.
the good news is I wasn't going to go deep sea diving, but
But are they leaking radiation and creating
Right.
Godzilla? Yeah, probably.
yeah. Hey, all right. We deserve it. I mean, that's fair.
Next link.
Next link. A little bit on that topic, though. This is from Yahoo News. Humans in the Andes seem to have evolved a strange genetic ability.
Okay.
Yeah. Over thousands of years, humans living in the Argentina Andes have relied on drinking water that would make most people deathly ill. There's a naturally occurring arsenic in volcanic bedrock, contaminating the local water supply with levels of the toxic metalloid that would pose serious risks to most human populations. But according to a DNA analysis of people across Western South America, a population in the Andes carries a gene variant that likely helps them metabolize arsenic more safely.
Whoa.
Given enough time and gentle enough exposure to a habit, life has shown a remarkable ability to adapt to all sorts of wild conditions: extreme heat, complete lack of oxygen, dangerous radiation levels. However, little is known about how human populations adapt to toxic chemicals in their environment. Arsenic, if you don't know, is highly toxic, associated with cancer, skin lesions, birth defects, and death. It's also widespread, naturally present at high levels in groundwater of many regions around the world. The current recommendation limit for arsenic in drinking water, set by the World Health Organization, is 10 micrograms per liter. Until a filtration system was installed in 2012, the remote high-altitude town of San Antonio de los Cobres had drinking water that contained around 200 micrograms of arsenic per liter.
Wow.
Yet the region has been inhabited for thousands of years, at least 7,000, and perhaps as long as 11,000 years. In 1995, scientists noted that women from Argentina Andes had a unique ability to metabolize arsenic, as evidenced by metabolites in their urine. These variants were far more common in people from San Antonio de los Cobres than in genetically similar populations in Peru and Colombia. All the kids that did get sick, I guess, died.
Well, I mean, you have to assume as well that, like, there are occasional random people in the rest of the world who have this slightly greater than average ability. They're just not being pushed on it by having so much arsenic in their life. So,
right.
you know, they've basically isolated down to everybody has those genes. But it's like how Ozzy Osbourne can take way more drugs than anybody else, and he's just got a really good metabolism for it. I'm sure there's magical people wandering around the U.S. who could go to the Andes and drink the water and be fine, and just everybody else in their little hiking party would die, and they'd be the only one left to have babies. So
That's right. Yep. Next link.
Next link.
All right. Well, next up, we've got a slightly terrifying but informative article from AP News called What to Know About Alpha-Gal Syndrome, the life-threatening meat allergy caused by tick bites.
Ooh.
Yeah, the title says it all, really. But if you aren't aware, there is a syndrome on the rise where if you get bitten by a tick, you may develop a severe allergy to all red meat, potentially including byproducts from those same animals like dairy and even gelatin.
Ooh, that's rough.
Yeah. And it's called alpha-gal syndrome because technically speaking, that is actually the substance that you are allergic to. Alpha-gal is a sugar found in the saliva of certain ticks and also in the meat of most mammals, including beef, pork, and lamb. The good news is it's not in seafood or birds, so people with alpha-gal syndrome can still eat those. And weirdly, it's also not present in the meat of primates, so you could theoretically still eat a baboon steak or be a cannibal if you were so afflicted.
Sorry, I'm going to have to say, every time you say alpha-gal, my brain just goes to a stupid influencer.
Oh, yeah, it definitely sounds like.
Yeah, I'm like, what about Alpha Guy? Huh?
She just eats
Yeah.
red
Why-
meat.
But as with the development of most allergies, it's not eating the substance that causes the immune system to freak out. Like, you're not going to get this from eating too much meat. It's only when that substance goes directly into the bloodstream. And of course, if you have a damaged gut, all bets are off, but that's a separate issue. In this case, the alpha-gal is going into the bloodstream when the tick bites you through your skin. So if your immune system takes notice and says, hang on, this isn't supposed to be here in our blood, congratulations, you now have an allergy. And it can take weeks or even months after the offending tick bite for the reaction to reach its full severity. And like all allergies, the reaction is going to vary somewhat between different people. Potential symptoms include classics like hives, itchiness, or anaphylaxis, but also digestive issues like diarrhea, stomach pain, and vomiting. Now, there is one unusual exception to the list of foods, which may offer some hope for people who have this syndrome. Generally speaking, people with alpha-gal syndrome can't eat pork anymore. But there is actually a subset of pigs that have been genetically modified not to produce alpha-gal. They were originally created as an experiment in organ transplants, because it would be really great if we could, for example, give someone a pig heart rather than letting them languish on the organ transplant waiting list. And alpha-gal has been one of the roadblocks in using animals for organ transplants because, again, you're putting it directly into your bloodstream and the human body immediately rejects the organ. And they're still working on the problem of organ transplants, and that has a long way to go. But in the meantime, these so-called gal-safe pigs were approved by the FDA for consumption in 2020. The meat is available from a company called Amaru Hills, which was founded by a man named Wan Wen, who developed alpha-gal syndrome himself back in 2003. And he actually started Amaru Hills as an emu farm, because Wen says emu meat is the closest approximation to beef that he has found. But they've grown quite a lot since those early days, and now they sell emu, ostrich, duck, turkey, chicken, guinea fowl, and of course, gal-safe pork. Now, generally the allergy is lifelong, but there is a small chance of it fading away on its own. Dr. Scott Commons, an alpha-gal syndrome researcher at the University of North Carolina, says that he's seen it go away in about 15 to 20% of his patients, but he says that gets less likely with every successive tick bite you experience. And his focus right now is actually on prevention of the disease. Commons is currently doing studies with an allergy medication called Xolair, which was originally developed for treatment-resistant asthma patients. And his theory is that if you receive a shot of Xolair immediately following a tick bite, that might prevent the immune system from developing alpha-gal syndrome in the first place. Like, this isn't a typical allergy med. This is like a rescue allergy med. Like, you are having an asthma attack and you're going to die. And if they jab you with this intense antihistamine, sometimes it saves you. So studies are ongoing. They don't know yet. But at the very least, Commons has no shortage of patient volunteers because according to the CDC, about 450,000 Americans already have the disease.
Whoa.
And those numbers are steadily growing because the natural habitat of the tick is spreading wider every year thanks to climate change. The ticks that cause alpha-gal syndrome used to be confined to the eastern and southern U.S., but in recent years they have been found as far north as the Great Lakes region and Massachusetts. So, basically, if you like eating meat, don't go outside, because ticks are everywhere. I mean, I got bit by a tick when I was a kid, and I didn't develop this syndrome, apparently. Or maybe I did, but I just keep eating meat and ignoring it. But
Right. My gut hurts all the time, but it tastes so good.
I just love the endorphin rush. Forget the itchy eyes. It doesn't matter. The steak is amazing.
Uh-huh. And that it's lifelong. I mean, because people have peanut allergies, and I think you can do shots and eventually.
Sometimes, yeah. Some people respond to the therapies, some don't. And it depends on how severe the allergy is.
I guess that's true.
Like anything, you can be a little bit allergic or a lot allergic to the meat after you have this reaction. And, maybe it's like the arsenic. If you have a low-level reaction, but you just keep eating meat, maybe your body goes, okay, like we just got to live with this.
Yeah, you developed a different autoimmune disorder.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Next link.
Next link. This article is also from Smithsonian Mag, titled How One German Button Maker Searched the Rivers of the American Midwest for the Shells That Could Make Him a Fortune. So this story begins with a button maker and a box of mussel shells. In the mid-1800s, the box in question somehow found its way to John Bopel's button shop in Ottensen, Germany. Some sources claim the shells were harvested from the Illinois River and sent to Germany by a man who wanted an assessment of their manufacturing value. Others link them to the Mississippi. In many accounts, Bopel only knew they'd arrived from a location 200 miles west of Chicago. What he also knew, and what his competitors didn't understand, was how valuable they were. Based on their density and luster, these mussel shells could be used to make high-quality pearl buttons, and pearl buttons could be used to make a fortune. Bepel immigrated to the United States in the late 1880s, resolving to search for more of these freshwater mussels. At the time, several pearl button factories were operating in the Midwest, but they were importing ocean shells rather than harvesting mussels from nearby rivers. As the story goes, the button maker was bathing in the Sangamon River when he cut his foot on something sharp. He later recalled, "Upon examination of the cause, I found the bottom of the river covered with mussel shells. At last I had found what I had been looking for. These shells, however, were too thin. After searching for other mussel beds in nearby towns, he ultimately settled in Muscatine, Iowa, where he made his first buttons in 1891. By 1905, Muscatine had dozens of factories and produced 1.5 billion buttons per year. Dustin Joy, director of the National Pearl Button Museum in Muscatine, says, "That's kind of an abstract number until you do the math. If you piled up 1.5 billion buttons, each about 1/8 of an inch thick, that's a stack 2,900 miles high." In just a few years, the town doubled in size, becoming a central hub for button production. It also devastated the local mussel population, as you might imagine. Joy says it was a boon for this town because it created a lot of jobs, provided a lot of prosperity, but it was an environmental catastrophe.
Yeah, mussels clean the water.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Aside from killing all the sea life, now you've got poisonous water.
Yeah, bring back those arsenic guys.
Right?
So pearl buttons became a thriving industry, supported by clammers who used a variety of techniques to harvest mussels. Sometimes they would wade into the river, feeling along the bottom with their feet. When the water froze in the winter, they'd collect mussels through holes in the ice. One of the most efficient methods involved crowfoot hooks, which workers would drag along the bottom of the river. When the hooks touched the inside of the shell, the mussels would reflexively clamp down. Clammers searched for mussels with particular qualities. The shells needed to be thick enough to make a button, and ideally large enough to make many buttons. The workers then removed the meat and grilled out circular discs called blanks from each specimen. After grinding down and polishing the blanks, workers used machines to drill holes. After factories and blanking shops punched out button-sized circles, turning the shells into something resembling thick pieces of Swiss cheese, they often dumped them back into the rivers.
Oh.
And there's photos of all of this. This article has tons of historical photos. And yeah, they're literally just shells, like any mussel you'd see, but they just got the buttonholes punched out of them.
Well, and I wonder what they did with all the mussel meat. That would be a whole separate industry of food that they could be saving, but maybe they let them spoil. Maybe they didn't properly keep them after they pulled them out of the water, so the meat's no good anymore.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they just ate it or something, it just became a resource for them.
Snacking while you're working.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, there's probably a lot of waste.
Yeah.
And after all, these discarded shells can still be found in the river, and they illustrate the scale of the mussel harvest and also why it ended. At first, clammers had harvested near the factories, but as they depleted their supply, They ventured further away. Freshwater mussel populations plummeted. Joy says supply and demand was going to end the pearl button industry at some point. It was just a heedless use of this natural resource. That seems to be a lesson we have to learn over and over in this country. The decline of pearl buttons also coincided with the rise of consumer plastics. Plastic buttons weren't higher quality, but they were much easier to produce. In Muscatine, large factories started closing between the 1920s and 1940s, but even without the pearl button industry, freshwater mussels weren't out of danger. Around the same time, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers deepened the rivers and constructed a system of dams, destroying the habitats of mussels that had evolved to live in shallower waters. Increasingly polluted waters also took a toll. So, while the button boom devastated freshwater mussels, it also triggered early efforts to preserve them. In 1908, Congress established the Fairport Biological Station in Iowa so that experts could study freshwater mussels and try to reintroduce them into the Mississippi River. 2 years later, Beppel himself took a position at the station where he contributed new harvesting techniques and documented the size and properties of mussel beds. Despite his innovations, the button maker himself never became a successful businessman. According to the Biographical Dictionary of Iowa, he ordered unnecessary equipment and chemicals to confuse potential competitors. He remained attached to his ideals as an old-world craftsman, opposing automation, and struggled with English. When he died in 1912, he had few assets to his name. And his story came full circle in 1911 when he came across a heel splitter in an Indiana river. Pfeffer says, legend has it that John Beppel walked out into the stream, cut his foot, and allegedly died from an infection. So, the mussels got their revenge, allegedly.
Right. It seems fair. I mean, he killed an entire population and they got him. So, you know.
Yeah. Today, freshwater mussels are still endangered and several species are thought to be extinct. But state and federal regulations protect many species and some have even returned to the Mississippi River. Joy says, I think all history is valuable. By learning what people did in the past, both right and wrong, we can learn to make better decisions in the future.
But we won't.
Nope.
Yeah. Some of us will. Most of us.
Yeah. I mean, you know, when plastics become out again because they're ruining everything and we have to go back to handcrafted stuff, maybe someone will still retain the knowledge of how to make mussel shell buttons. Or we'll just have shirts with no buttons.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah, we've got zippers now.
For now.
That's true.
All right. Well, that is all we have time for today. We're so glad you've joined us. Some of the articles we did not have time to get to today include The Long Island Deed Schemer, What Big Food Did to Ice Cream, and A Necessary History of the Oddest Letter W. So all that and more, plus everything we talked about today, can be found on damninteresting.com. If you like our podcast and want to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/damninterestingweek. In the meantime, my name is Jennifer Lee Noonan.
I'm Spurr-Chen.
I'm Bradley Calhoun.
And we hope you have a damn interesting week. Bye-bye.